Hey guys, Phil here. Just wanted to wish you guys a happy new year. And I just wanted to say thanks on behalf of Kenny and myself. We're into our sixth year, 300 plus episodes, and we couldn't have done this without you guys listening all the time. And so we thank you very much. And then we just wanted to say thanks to, we had lots of fans looking for the podcast over the holidays, and this year Kenny and I took an extended break, so the last episode was actually just before Christmas. So it's been a wonderful time off. We hope you all come back and listen, and just thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being such amazing fans. And this year, tell us anything else you want to listen to. We are continuing to expand our search for wonderful Canadian retail brands, retail success stories, and retailers. We want to hear from you too. So you can hit us up at podcast at This Commerce Life, or on Instagram at This Commerce Life, or on LinkedIn, This Commerce Life. Any of those places you can find us. We'd love to hear from you. Once again, Happy New Year. We hope you all had wonderful holidays. And we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks. Take care.
Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
Verification stuff to get logged in, so everything takes long now.
Everything's 2FA and multi-factor and double encryption.
Well, it depends on what you use, right? Like I find this Google's not too bad. I find sometimes with Zoom, when we have people invite us to a Zoom thing, like my computer, like almost inevitably, as soon as I sign, it wants to update.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, like, could you not like automate this so maybe half an hour into the call, hey, would you like to update? Why would you update me when I'm trying to get into a meeting?
Yeah,
you should have an auto software update, Kenny.
It's Zoom. Zoom wants to do the updates.
Yeah,
and I don't have it, Phil, because I use it that. But you know that one it says, I don't know what. Like I use the web sort of version. I don't know what the hell I use.
Yeah. No, there's too many options. We always use Google, which is good, but
that's what we like too, because it integrates well. We can use chat. Like it's. I don't know. I find it really easy. I find it easier than Teams, which I really don't like that much.
Yeah. No, we do the same. We just did this verification update thing a couple of days ago, and
something.
Anyway,
yeah,
all good.
Plus, it's all the IT guys. All they want to do is cause grief and trouble. So it's it's all good.
Yeah. No, it's all this double verification stuff. I don't know.
Which makes sense. I get it.
Yeah. Well, it does. I guess there's so much.
Exactly. It's still a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Bottom line, right? It's still just a pain in the ass, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll do it. All good.
Yeah.
All good.
Oh man, it is really nice to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah. As well.
Yeah. Well, I guess I feels really never. Yeah. I guess I never thought of that.
You never thought of what?
That you probably wouldn't really known it. I mean, the only reason because I've known it for a lot of years. I mean, we don't see each other often. It's usually shows, but I've known it for a lot of years because I think Salt Spring. I might have listed it right before Ethical Bean or right after, but you were my first two local guys for sure.
Yeah. At LD, yeah.
For sure. 100% for sure. That was my first two.
Viren says hi, by the way. I was just talking to him this morning. And
I don't like Viren much anymore, so that doesn't matter.
I like Viren because every time I'm at the show, Viren gets me one of those special coffees.
Yeah.
So
which is good. He continued the tradition. Good for him. That's good.
It seemed like when we were in Toronto there, I had to go and find some,
medicine
Bailey's, on a Sunday morning, like.
He should have told you. You got to probably come prepared with 3 or 4 bottles of it.
There you go. But anyway, it's all good.
It's all good in the head. Say hi to Viren too.
Yeah. Tell him we said hi. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, we can get kind of started right away if we sort of want.
Let's do it.
So not for anything, but I'm super excited because I haven't even had a chance to talk to Mickey in probably 15 plus years on his story. which has probably changed a lot in the last 15 or so years. So today we have Mickey McLeod on, who's the founder, owner of Salt Spring Coffee.
Yeah, I'm actually co-founder with my wife, Robin.
So actually, he's definitely the co-founder because I'm assuming Robin's the boss, just by assumption. So we should have had the founder on. Like instead today, guys, we have Mickey on, who's going to help us out anyway, even though Robin couldn't join us. Mickey, for the next 45 minutes to 50 minutes, it's really your show. So what I would love to hear is, sort of where you came from, why do this? We know it's obviously virtue of the name. It did start on Salt Spring. What precipitated maybe the move to the Lower Mainland and all the other fun stuff? What you're doing now, where you're going, and anything else in between. You can talk about whatever you want. You got hobbies. We don't care. I think your story is going to be interesting no matter what. I think you're going to be an inspiration for a lot of the brands just starting out, because they'll learn a little bit of how to, the trials and tribulations of this industry, because you've gone through your fair share like everybody else. So really, next 45, 50, buddy, it's all about you, and wherever you lead it or wherever you want to go, we go. Him and I'll jump in and ask you questions periodically, but really, it's your show.
Okay.
Happy to have you on. Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks for the invite. And it has been a while, say, other than the odd show. Haven't really had a chance to connect much. Been following what you guys do a little bit, which is pretty awesome. And it's nice to kind of have a voice in the industry or in the world. And I mean, just, to start a little bit, my wife, co-founder of the company, we actually met in 1973 in Powell River. She's from California. I was a hippie kid living on Texada Island, and she came up with a truckload of hippies from California to visit some people on Texada. So, and I met them in the parking lot, and we spent a bunch of time together there, and a few years, I guess about 4 or 5 years together. And then Robin, she went off to continue her passion and career in dance, which is what she grew up in the dance world, in San Francisco ballet and stuff. So she wasn't quite ready. Wow. She was on a little bit of a vacation with some friends and kind of got sidetracked. So we actually had a separation for a sabbatical for 7 years, really. And then we got back together in the early 80s, and then kind of rekindled our relationship. But all the way through our life together, a thread was coffee. That was an interesting thing. And
interesting. In
the early 70s, when we first met, I went to San Francisco with her, and she took me to Little Italy and Cafe Trieste. And, I'm a country boy that grew up with a tea drinking mother. And so coffee was never really on my radar much as a young guy. But then, going to Cafe Trieste and seeing that Italian culture in Little Italy, San Francisco, was a big eye opener for me.
So you went from tea to really espresso. Like you didn't even do.
Well, it was more, lattes, but they used to sell lattes in a beer glass, So that was it. It wasn't really espresso so much. That wasn't my thing, but milky drink. But I wasn't really much of a coffee drinker. But that's sort of, how we kind of got kindled with coffee. And then, we used to buy, coffee personally for our own use, all up until, all through the 80s when we kind of got back together. And then it was in the early 90s, I guess, that Robin's mother lived in Eugene, Oregon. So used to go there over the holidays with our daughter and visit. And then one day I went to a Starbucks, back in the day when it was not quite what it is today. And I bought this book by Kenneth Davids about home roasting, and so, and got kind of interested in that because of our passion for coffee. And Michael Sivitz was selling these little converted popcorn poppers, into a little roaster. He was in Corvallis, Oregon, which is on the way home from Oregon. So we stopped by, bought one of these little converted popcorn poppers, a sample of some green beans, brought them home. It was just for our personal use because, okay, let's take this to the next level. Yeah. And started doing that. And then, I've always been pretty entrepreneurial. So I just, my wheels started turning and, how can we, what can we do with this? And, Salt Springs got great demographics and, the right kind of people, well-traveled and like good taste of things. So thought, okay, maybe we can do something with this for business wise. And originally we were just going to roast coffee from home and then sell it. How are we going to distribute this? It's kind of hard being rural. We live 15 acres.
Because you're on Salt Spring Island at this point.
Yeah. I've been here since 81 and Robin's been here since 84 or 85.
Well, maybe for folks who don't know that, Salt Spring even now is not, Salt Spring is now maybe 10,000 people. And I'm assuming at that time, how many?
There's about 12 now. I don't think there's been an official census for a little while, but it's more than 10.
And you're probably about 5 or 6 at that time. So you're not in the Lower Mainland or on Vancouver Island. You're on a smaller island with.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's when I moved here in 81, there was around 5,000 people.
Yeah, I would assume that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it balloons in the summertime. There's lots of visitors.
Sure.
And it has been for a number of years, but it keeps getting going. So we anyway, we didn't know how to go about distributing the coffee, roasted just beans to consumers. So it ended up there was a place in Ganges that was for lease. So I got, okay, well then started clicking, and then there's a possibility. Part of the learning too, we went to a coffee fest in Seattle. I think it was in the fall of 94, I think it was. Yeah, 95. And then, learned about what's happening there, subscribed to the Coffee and Tea Trade Journal because, internet wasn't really that active yet. So you had to subscribe to a magazine and wait for it to arrive in the mail. Like that.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What madness is this?
Yeah. Well, that's
the way it should be.
I totally agree.
Yeah. And it was Coffee and Tea Trade Journal, like that, out of New York. So it's pretty conventional,
Mhm.
That's kind of what it was. And it was really kind of hard to do, any kind of research. And where do you get green beans from? And somebody's, Royal Coffee. So I got a number, called up, and then connected with Alex Mason, who was one of the salespeople there, and started making a deal. So just, that's sort of the very early stages of just, there wasn't a lot of information, and really had to be patient waiting for the mail to come by, and lots of experimenting. And then, ended up buying this little roaster. And anyway, took over the lease of this cafe on Salt Spring and just kind of dove in.
So it was an actual cafe. So it was already serving like food.
Well, no, we built it.
That type of thing?
And we built
No,
the
no.
cafe.
You built it. Okay.
You built it?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
It was just a vacant building, which we still have that location. It's still
That's awesome.
after several renovations, but
That's awesome.
I bought this little 7.5 kilo Petroncini roaster, learned how to roast from some people in California,
Right.
moved it in there, bought an espresso machine, an Astoria, really everything just basic, a brewer, and, made tables and, bought a bunch of old chairs, and my father-in-law painted them, and, kind of real bootstrap kind of thing, and we did everything,
Awesome.
everything. And then opened the doors and people flooded in. It was like, they're kind of waiting for this, but we weren't even prepared. So we actually opened for a few days, closed for a week, and then opened again because we weren't ready. I made the mistake of saying we're going to open on this day instead of saying we're going to be open when we're ready.
I guess you don't know. Plus, if you don't know how busy it's going to be, you figure out what the hell.
Yeah.
I'll open the doors. I get 4 people. I didn't expect 40.
Well, there were people lining up,
Wow.
and came in and sat down, and kind of like, but we were just scrambling because, we know we're open. So we're shoving things in drawers and cupboards and just getting them off the counter, and then looking for, I need that. Where is it? And it was just a mad.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, but we had the cooling about it. We had the roaster in the cafe, and the whole purpose of that was kind of like shop roaster, and then people could actually see the process and all of that. And it was a model that happened a lot in California, sort of between the Camino Real up south of San Francisco and that whole area. We visited several places. So we did I could have skipped it. Did a lot of research before traveling and going and sitting in cafes and seeing what kind of model we wanted. And that's kind of what we ended up with. So you could sort of kind of really a show and tell. And then people could actually see it. And then, but it ended up getting so busy that I couldn't roast during the day. So I'd roast all night, and roast, we open really late too. Another one of those things, we're open too late, too long. So I'd start roasting like at midnight and roast till 6 a.m. And then
try to find sleep.
that was a special treat. days.
Yeah. So sorry. What year is this, give or take?
96.
96.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at this time, I'm assuming there's not a lot of cafes that are doing roasting within it. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, it's almost like the microbrewer,
Yeah.
microbrewery kind of idea, right? Which like nobody really did in the 90s, even
Yeah,
like late 90s. You
yeah.
started. Yeah.
There was really none. I mean, there was not even a lot of available locally roasted coffee. You know, I mean,
no.
I think Canterbury was around, but doing their thing, and I don't think any of the other. Well, I guess on commercial, there's a few places, but the Italian traditional coffee roasting,
Right, but I don't even think that. I mean, Continental might have been. Milano's not around yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there wasn't many. I think Continental might have been 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, then there was what's the company that John Neitz bought? Coffee
JJ.
Roaster.
What's it
Coffee
before?
Roaster, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that there's very little. That was it. So we were ahead of the curve some with that.
Totally.
And then the other side of it too is not only the specialty coffee, but also focusing on values-based, so organic, fair trade wasn't even a thing until later in the 90s, and organic coffee was very rare. But that was sort of our focus from the beginning. I mean, Robin and I both grew up, although her in California, me a country boy here, but we both shared, deep alternative values, so overall, old hippie values,
right?
About the whole thing. So that was really, and still has, a big part of the DNA of Salt Spring Coffee is that, and so we've carried that through. And as you can see how it's evolved over the years, and it's always been a struggle, and it still tends to be to a certain degree because there's so much greenwashing happening now too.
Well, there's so much greenwashing. Coffee's a commodity, it's price. You're trying to explain the value, and you pay extra for the organic, you pay extra for the free trade.
Yeah.
They're important things to have, but does a consumer get it? And I guess I'm going back, like I'm trying to think. I mean, you didn't pick the worst place to live, definitively. Salt Spring's beautiful, but you also didn't pick the worst place to be in terms of if you're going to do something alternative and talk on the organics, and you're going to talk to fair trades and that sort of hippie lifestyle. No offense, I know Salt Spring's not all hippie, but you know what I mean? It's definitely that feel at that time. You probably were in the right place.
Yeah.
To have at least odds.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. Yeah, and it did work that way, So we ran the cafe with the roaster in there for about a year, and then it got to be way too busy, and I didn't want to roast coffee all night. During the night, we actually moved the roaster out to our property, and I had a little building that we put it in there, and then we ran it there for probably about, I think, 4 or 5 years, and then that got to be too small, and then we took over another spot on the island. And that's the thing with Salt Spring is there's not a lot of options. Like there's no commercial property or light industry park or there's none of that here, so you kind of have to make it, and so we ended up by going to one of pretty much the only properly zoned building, and as soon as we moved in, it was too small. I mean, it was too small to start with. We had 3 shipping containers, moving stuff around, and every time you wanted to do something, you had to move something.
It's like a school now with portables all over the place.
Yeah,
I was just thinking. We had the lady from Moonshine Mamas on.
Oh yeah, Mel.
A few episodes ago, and she talked about the same thing. She was like,
containers in the backyard.
We had a container, and then we had a second container, and then when we hit the third container, we're like, "What are we doing here? Why?" So it made me think of this.
Well, it's one of sort of the dysfunctions of this island. I mean, there's a lot of great people like that. I mean, some things have changed a little bit, but we were growing as a company, a manufacturer. I mean, we need lots of room just because there's lots of pieces and bulk things. But it became a real challenge. I mean, the place we moved into after our home, say it was too small to start with, but at least it was a step. And then what we ended up by doing is, all during a lot of this time was going and talking to the, the Islands Trust about, the people that do the approvals of zoning and stuff here, saying, hey, this isn't going to work for us. And there are other businesses in similar situations. So we're trying to create, some kind of an industrial,
Right.
commercial park. And I said, one thing that we waste is heat, so thinking, okay, we could capture the heat, we could build, we could put it into a building, it could help create something for a commercial light industry park.
Right.
But the problem with that is that somebody needs to own the property and develop it as an individual. And herein lies the problem with the Islands Trust, is that you're taking a huge gamble doing that because you're not guaranteed to get it. So they always told me, well, you can always buy a piece of property and do it. So I did a separate piece, not for an industrial park or commercial park, but for us to do it. So I bought the property under good faith because they were encouraging us to do it. Bought the property, paid my $5,000 for a rezoning application, hired an architect, put together a plan. 18 months later, they said, "So no, that's not going to happen." So it ended up, we got voted off the island. And, that's how
literally voted off the island.
Well, that's literally.
Well,
literally.
I remember this. You sort of did. And, and not to take, it's like anything. It's a hard, the coast is interesting on a good day. And the island's even more interesting than the West Coast.
Yeah.
And they're very protective of space. So I sort of understood the idea. I remember the time I sort of get why they don't want it to get over industrialized, but I've also thought, shit, but you've got people who live here that are branding it a Salt Spring Island coffee. And it was like, oh, shit. I mean, there's got to be a way to be able to balance it a little bit without degrading the island and making it into no offense, Surrey, but like, you don't want industrial parks everywhere. I get it.
Yeah, I do get it. The mandate of the Islands Trust is to preserve and protect.
For sure.
Right? Yeah. I get it. 100% get it.
Yeah.
The thing is that you're trying to work with them, must come up with a solution.
Yeah, give us something.
Solution. So then they said, okay, you can always buy a piece of property.
Yeah, so I do that. Now what?
I took that route. Right. And then so 18 months later, they said, sorry, we're not going to go.
Well,
meanwhile,
what the hell, guys?
I was moving forward as though that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I spent 9 months trying to find a new home. And then that's where we ended up where we are in Richmond, which, it's a good location. It's in a commercial park and all of that. So it does work well, but it was just sort of the whole process. And the thing is too, the goal was to let's, with the help of Salt Spring Coffee, let's sort of show that you can run a business like this in a small community and it can be, an example about how to run a business in a small community.
100%. Yeah. Plus you're employing people right there. Like there's so many good stories that spin out of that.
Yeah. One of the things we were going to do is build a greenhouse, use the heat from the,
that would have been so cool, right?
And that was, the thing, but every step of the way, they said, what do you want to do that for? What do you want to do that for? So it ended up that, so that was sort of probably one of the big hurdles that we had to deal with back in, I guess, 2007. Well, we moved to where we are now in 2010. So we've been there 13 years. So I guess around 2008. Also like from when we started to that time, we were, growing quite well and getting good distribution but all the struggle. I remember going to, can't remember which store it was, but going and, trying to pitch, organic coffee to grocery trade. Going, what is this organic shit? I can't sell that. It's too much. Well, I mean, literally it was a struggle.
They're still that way.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed, Mickey. Nothing has changed.
Yeah. So that is the thing, now it's even more difficult because, there's a lot of the greenwashers that, paint that picture, but they don't really do it. And I think that's part of the, the ongoing struggle is that we are pretty true blue and do believe it. And it is important, in a lot of ways, things are kind of being repackaged, into awareness about regenerative agriculture, which we've also got quite involved in recently. And, the thing with that too, is that part of the challenge with organic is that, it's a little bit easier to alter some of the standards,
Well, they're going to be happening, but I think we're going to be altering as a country the standards.
Yeah. And, the thing is like with regenerative, what I do like about it is it can help with mitigating climate change. And it's not just about coffee. It's about in general, what regenerative agriculture can do, and particularly with field crops and using rotational grazing with animals. This has not got much to do with coffee, but the thing is with coffee and regenerative agriculture is supporting agroforestry.
Right.
So that, like that's like a lot of the producers we work with, we've been helping them get regenerative certified. They actually pass very easy because they're already doing the work. But a lot of it is bringing awareness to the fact that, the world's on a fucking bad tour. We're heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and the tour bus is going to hit the wall pretty soon, man.
Right, but agriculture, if it's done right, can really help.
So tell me, can you do me a favor then, just for listeners and probably for the benefit of the two idiots beside you here? Do you want to explain maybe the regenerative portion just a little bit? Like what exactly are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, there's an organization called Regenerative Organic Alliance. ROA is the acronym. Yeah. And they actually manage a certification called Regenerative Organic Certified. So it's a not-for-profit. This is just one organization,
right? And
it was started by Patagonia, Dr. Bronner's, and Rodell. So Rodell Institute's been around since the 40s. They're sort of like the grandparents of organic farming.
Right.
Do a lot of research. They got centers all around the United States. Dr. Bronner's, around the world now, actually, Dr. Bronner's, doing their thing with all the, peppermint, so all that stuff. They've been around for 75 years. So, some really good tenure there. And then obviously Patagonia with Yvonne Chenard in their 50th year. So 3 really amazing companies that are completely values driven.
Totally.
They're the ones that kind of started this concept, and then they created the Regenerative Organic Alliance, and they've hired people to do it. So that's sort of the certification side of it. Right. And then they have a whole set of criteria. It's about human welfare, animal welfare, and environmental welfare. So it's kind of taking, sort of organic, fair trade, and human sort of into their standards. So they have criteria for each one. That's sort of for the certification side of it. But regenerative agriculture in a bigger picture, and a lot of it has to do with field crops or with animals. Like, as an example, people think that cow farts are going to, they're causing all this climate change. If you flip that around, that actually animals are very beneficial to the land. And also, like eating beef, if it's grass-fed beef, you're getting way more micronutrients and nutrient-dense food, so it's actually better. And the thing is that a lot of it, over the years, there's a guy named Will Harris from Bluffton, Georgia, White Oak Pasture. He's my new hero. And he's 6th generation cattle farmer.
I love it.
So his great-grandfather started it, and his grandfather, and then his father. And it's a typical story. And there's several stories like this that, after the Second World War, everything, the Industrial Revolution, all this stuff became, going from, the Depression, like my mother went through that, the Depression, then the Second World War, and after that, you're kind of exhausted. So then, the Industrial Revolution, this is so much easier. I can just, life is easier. And then, nitrogen fertilizer, realizing how good it is for growing, and then all of that. And then people come back from the war and they get given all of these things to go farming. You need you need a tractor, land, all that. And then you get sucked into all this stuff, that happened with commercial agriculture. So land got destroyed, Is it profitable? Yes, but at the cost of what? Right? Yeah. So it ends up, the land has been basically destroyed. And this guy, Will Harris, that's what he said. He grew up with, helping his father. He went to agricultural school in Atlanta, Georgia, in the early 70s, I think, the mid 70s. He said when he started the program, it was called animal husbandry. When he finished it, they called it animal sciences. And they changed the whole curriculum, going from caring for animals to actually just making money.
Yeah.
The goal raising cattle was to get them from calf to market as quick as possible, which is feeding them a whole bunch of grain that cows should eat.
Yeah.
And then you pump the ground full of fertile chemicals and all that stuff. And then you get a desert.
Well, I think that's the part people need to separate, is that you may not like meat and you don't have to eat meat, and that's no issue, right? But there's a big difference between a small scale cattle rancher and an industrial farm. Right. and institutional farms, or whatever you want to call them. That's like fishing's got the same problem. Is fishermen or fisher people off the coast aren't the problem. Industrial fishing is the
great big trawlers that kind of scrape everything up.
Or the Cargills where you're it's slaughtering millions. That's a shit show.
Yeah.
And it's doomed to fail.
Yeah. That is the problem, but there is this growing movement about regenerative agriculture, and I use Will as an example because he just put a book out, and I listened to it because I can absorb things. I can do stuff and listen to it. So anyway, I got the audio book, and it's absolutely amazing.
We'll have to share that in the links because I'm kind of curious about this one too.
Yeah, I can send it to you, but that's just one example, but there is quite a large movement about the importance of that. And the other thing about regenerative agriculture is like this, the land becoming a desert, what he did to start with is he put a whole bunch of chickens on the ground, and then, the chicken shit helps add nitrogen and it grows the grass. And then once that happens, then you can graze cattle, but you're doing it controlled, like it's called rotational grazing. So you're putting them in a fenced area, but you only leave them there for a certain period of time, and then you move them and then move them
and then move them and then move them.
This pattern.
You're doing it naturally.
Right. So when it does rain, the water is absorbed instead of running off. I don't have all the statistics and numbers, but the retention of water per hectare is phenomenal compared to.
I wouldn't doubt it though, and I don't think you need to get even in the science. I mean, in the old days when they used to leave fields fallow for a season or two, there's reasons why farmers did shit like that.
Yeah,
because they were bored, because they knew leave it alone for a little bit, let nature come take it back, fix it up, and then we go back to it, and we just keep the cycle going. But if you abuse the shit out of it,
well, that's the thing.
Where it goes.
Indigenous ways of doing it, or ancestral, like this guy's great grandfather. So he's basically going, and it's mixed farms. It's not like just cattle.
Exactly. It's not palm trees all over the freaking place.
Right. And letting the natural grasses come back.
I agree.
So that's in general what regenerative agriculture is.
So within the community of the coffee, it's about the birds, the canopies, the animals on the ground. What is nature doing nature? So that I've been saying this, for years about, shade growing, right? I mean, people go that, but it basically is the same thing. So, coffee naturally is a shade product. It's not grown full sun, but you got to have you can manage the canopy because depending on where it is, but the trees, the leaves fall as, that, and also having the right trees that fix nitrogen, that help the plant, all that. So that's part of it. And that whole cycle. So with coffee, it is, it's agroforestry. And then also having things that maybe you have some trees planted that you can harvest, and then managing the shade. So a lot of it is that. And then sometimes, how do you tell people this, Mickey? Because I think, because I'm sure this obviously, is that when you're organic fair trade and now you're rock, the price of your product's going to be higher. This is truly one of those commodities. How do you explain to people why they should, what I mean? Like, and I know this is the fundamental problem sometimes in this industry and pockets of it. How do you talk about this shit?
Well, that is the challenge.
Outside of podcasts or trying to get onto something grassroots, maybe where more people think, wow, that's really cool, I should look at that.
Yeah. Well, I know that's where we struggle some, like trying to do that. We have done some, campaigns, but I guess, the other challenge is, the way the world is now, and, with the challenges of the cost of everything, and there's so much chatter out there. I mean, we have a pretty, active social media thing. We've got people working with us there, so we're pretty active there, but how far and wide does that go, and how much do people really know? And
unless they bump into it, I mean, I don't know.
Well, we have had sort of a marketed campaign the last little while, and we have seen some uptick, but is it uptick in sales, but is it an awareness? And some people get it, some don't. When people are just sort of trying to feed their family, these kind of things aren't as.
It all adds into it, though, right? Yeah. But again, I think it's easy to say.
Yeah.
When you're in different shoes, the time we're going into right now, that's great to say, and maybe the three of us will probably be okay. But there are people that are, can't necessarily afford to pay these things. But you have to impress upon them why this is important to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, like, it's like I have 3 grandkids. I got a daughter in her mid-30s. I'm concerned more about them than me.
Totally.
And that, or the future, like what's happening there and what are they going to be like?
What do they get?
Yeah. So that's the thing. And just, there's so many distractions with all the stuff, when everybody's on their device, and, it's kind of like, crack on the screen, you're just always on this thing, right? So I get it. I mean, it's sad. And, there's more anxiety, like what happens with kids in school, everything. It's quite difficult. I mean, I feel very fortunate to grow up when and where I did. And
trust me, I feel the same.
Yeah. So that's sort of it, and I think more and more, but I like to sort of know what's going on, but try not to dwell on it and trying to find the bright spot. I was just in Penticton. I went to the Organic BC Association's conference. It hasn't happened for a few years, and it was really good to go. And it was really good to see a lot of younger, enthusiastic farmers out there.
Absolutely. Phil and I have been fortunate. We've been talking. We've had a few people on like that, young farmers or people raising animals in old school way of raising animals. You know what I mean? Like a whole different mentality, not this industrial gong show that we've seemed to have walked into, right?
And the thing is, I've spent a lot of time sort of reading, researching, watching, listening to what's going on. And I guess one of the things about Salt Spring Coffee and Robin and I all these years is not trusting the big players. Never really quite have, and and now it's way more obvious now too. All the shit they can get away with. It's like
they don't care either, Mickey. They really don't care.
Well, I think it's so obvious because they really don't care now. Like it's out there and in the open. They were afraid once they got out there that people would call them on, and then they realized, one, they don't care if people call it on, and then two is it doesn't seem to matter if you do. So
they can spin it different. They have the spin.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, all of Loblaw's problems and all the food problems in the country, bottom line, are you, Mickey. You're the supplier.
Yeah.
You're the problem.
Yeah.
You see how that spin happened? How the hell did it get to the rest? I mean, because we're suppliers too. How did it get to us?
Yeah. Well, it ends up too. Just recently, they talked about their quarterly earnings.
They're phenomenal. I mean, that's great. I'm glad they're profitable. They need to make money. They're a corporation. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
But what are you crying? Who are you crying to?
Yeah. But also, what's it like to try to get a price advance through, right?
What's it like to get a debit over?
No.
What's it like not to get a debit that you have no idea what it's for?
But I think here's the one that, like, if I wanted a consumer to understand something, is if you simply did, like, the one thing that you could do as a retailer that would change a supplier's life, for example, if you just brought your trade terms back to normal trade terms,
right?
It was 2% net 30. Do you like the lives that you would change in the manufacturer supplier world?
Yeah,
just
right. Like
that would be huge.
Because if you're listening to this and you're not in this retail game, or you're a retailer, you as soon as we figure out how to tell the public that you're basically financing 180 days off the backs of a supplier.
Yeah.
Like that math alone, like if you just brought it back to regular payment terms, like a lot more suppliers would have a lot more room, right?
Yeah.
And like, anything I see with a B in revenue earnings to me says you don't need us to pay for another 180 days of finance. Like it's
how much
come on, guys, like just like
all of that is it's well, the interesting, I mean, it ends up that we've been involved in the grocery world for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And we do some decent volume there, but it is all of these hurdles,
it just seems to be never ending too. And every time they shut one down because people catch wind, they create 3 new ones.
Yeah. Or just the amalgamation, like all of the, the independent chains that have been, amalgamated, and then they start ruling all of those things.
Well, look at our province alone. I mean, we've got one that's pretty much taken over almost every independent.
Yeah.
What's left? And
then have to start repay listing fees again when we've already paid them once.
or pay listing fees, and they never left.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know what you call it. Happy to still be with us fee.
Yeah.
All right.
It's interesting, like a lot of, there's that whole world, but in terms of, like regenerative agriculture and all of that, and sort of I guess the one way I've been talking to people, and I was just visiting some friends after this conference, and I've known them for a long, long time. And, okay, well, what can we do? Like, how do we,
right.
And the thing is, like, what I've been thinking is like focusing what you can do, and like within your sphere of influence, like, really buy locally.
Buy local.
Buy from your
Just
local.
buy local.
Right. I mean, that's so good. I mean, if whether it's a farmer's market or a local store,
whatever,
your local meat, so whatever it might be, like that's what we can do.
Yes,
and
I
more
agree.
And more, like more smaller groups, and give them the money directly and pay them cash if you can.
It was even better if you could find cash anymore. But
so things like that, like that's what I've been really talking to people about. Just do what you can. And and the thing is, there is an interesting movement for small scale farmers. Have you ever heard of the Young Agrarians? You know them?
No.
They're actually another group that we actually helped. We gave them $5,000 seed money about 15 years ago. There's a woman named Sarah Dent that I met at Hollyhock, actually on Cortez, and she had this idea about putting together this network of farmers, young agrarians. So
this is so cool.
Yeah.
So Nikki, we'll take the introduction anytime you want to make, and we'll have her on.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Anytime.
Yeah. So anyway, it's grown into not a national brand or a product, but they're actually moving east. They've mostly been around BC, but I think they're as far as Saskatchewan now. And one of the big things that they do, it's called land matching. And what they do is they take, people that have land, either maybe they've inherited it or they don't want to farm anymore, and they want to use the land. So then there's people that want to farm. So what the Young Agrarians do is they have this program that they could match people. I went to a workshop on Salt Spring here a little while ago, and it is so dialed. I mean,
that's awesome.
It's like a roadmap. If you're a landowner, you do this. If you want land, you do this, and they put it together, and they just make it so simple.
That's awesome.
There's more and more of that happening as well. And I think that, we can't fight the big fight. We just can't.
Plus, it's depressing, and you're going to get yourself down. And then you know what you do? You do nothing because it's just overwhelming.
Yeah. But the more and more, and the thing is too, is that, we've food doesn't come out of a factory,
No, it shouldn't anyway.
Yeah. I mean, maybe for packaging, but the thing is, once again, if you can look closer, you can get to the source, the better it is, and the less packaging, all of that.
Exactly.
So that's it. So to me, that's kind of been my message last while, is just, buy as much as you can locally. And I think if we can keep the breath in there, the heartbeat happening there, then that's going to continue to grow. And that's kind of the thing with, regenerative organic certified as well. So I think that's also part of it, just getting, mitigating climate, pulling carbon out of the air. There's also another guy up in Comox Valley that is from Beaver Meadow Farms, is another guy. Been there for years. I used to live in the Comox Valley. I had no idea the farm was there. He's been there. His grandfather, same things, took it over after the Depression, moved from the prairies, bought this farm. They have 500 acres. They grow certified organic grass-fed beef. We went and bought some from him and had a talk with this guy. His name is Edgar, and unbelievable. I mean, he just said, let the sun and the cows do all the work. So the sun shines on the grass pulls it into the ground, the carbon.
Yeah.
He feeds the cows, they graze, they move them. He's got silage. So for the winter, and it's quite simple. And you look around, people say, well, how come you're not farming? Where's your tractor? I don't need one. The cows
need a tractor.
Yeah.
The animals are taking care of all the grass for me. I have to do shit, man.
The only thing as a tractor for is to cut, hay or silage.
Right.
For the winter. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And he moves, with his dogs and and the cows. And he said, you don't have to work. So that is also some of the principles of regenerative agriculture. Let the animals do the work, and you manage the animals on the field.
I like it.
There are numerous good stories about how regenerative agriculture saved a lot of farms, and in Australia too. That's when I first started watching some things of like one example of an old Australian farmer, like multi-generational, the guys, they're in their late 70s and almost losing their farm, turned it around. The guy said he was spending 800 grand a year on feed, because he needed to do it. And then now regenerative agriculture, and he's back to like a couple hundred grand. So huge reductions in cost, better quality,
better for the land, better for the animals, better for us when we're eating
water. And especially in a country like Australia that's so dry.
Exactly.
There are a lot of really, really good examples out there. And with coffee, obviously it's agroforestry. It's a bit of a different process, but it's still about the awareness of working with nature.
Right.
And letting nature do its thing, and you're supporting it instead of poisoning it. And that's it. And the thing is, when you do that, then you end up, when you're poisoning the land, then you're poisoning the people too. And then you put a strain on the health system and all of that. So there's so many examples of the wrong way to do it and the right way to do it. And the wrong way has been happening for too long. Now there's the right way. And there seems to be more and more of that happening. So it's encouraging to look at it through that lens, and that's kind of what we do. So that's been a lot of what we've been working on lately. And we are also we did become registered with ROC, so we are the first Canadian coffee company.
Awesome.
To be ROC. We're not. It's like a license. It's same with like fair trade. You get the license agreement, because we don't produce. Like, we're not a producer, but we're a licensee. So we're the first ROC coffee licensee in Canada.
Good for you, man.
We're going to be rolling that out soon. We've just been working with our coffee producers to get certified. They're not the coffee producers we work with. They're not ours.
Yeah, no, I understood you.
Yeah. So that, we have, I think, 4 or so of the producers are certified now, and there's more coming online. The thing is, with regenerative agriculture in general, it's moving very quickly. And, once again, you got to watch the greenwashing, because, the big players are all over it too. And you just got to, I always think you got to peel back the layers or open the lid and look inside to see really what's going on. Because if you just, look at the front green layer, it's not there. And so that's the unfortunate thing. It's sort of the repeat of, historical things, whether it be and also create our own standards. And that's sort of one of, can like or not like certifications. But it gives it a little bit of credibility.
I think on that one, Mickey, like I feel like consumers are, we're just as culpable, right? Is the big guys, they turn things green, and then the consumer goes, look, in my head, it all makes sense to me, right? Like, if it's truly organic, or it's something that has been carefully grown, roasted, the right way, it's going to cost a little bit more, right? Because I think deep down inside, every consumer knows it's just not that cheap, right? Like, what we know is from the 70s, 80s, 90s, we figured out how to make things super cheap without really caring whether it was good for us or not, right? Mm-hmm. And so intuitively, I think consumers know, if it's good for me, it can't be this cheap. It's going to cost me a little bit more. But the green is like an excuse. It's like it's the ability to lie to yourself and go, well, they said it's green friendly, so it must be,
it's better than what it was in green.
It's not the best, right? So I don't have to pay for the best. I can pay for the middle, but all we're paying for really is marketing, right? Like, to say that it's. And and to buy the excuse that it's better for you, right? So I think it's like, it's consumers. We need to, like, just, the earth doesn't have a good, better, best. We have the best, and we have really terrible. Right now we're in really terrible people. So, like, there's no medium solution.
But I do think it comes back to what sort of Mickey was saying, and we preach this a lot too, because we actually believe it, is that I think shopping local. Typically from your smaller, like, let's say if you're a butcher or you're a smaller grocer, I don't care what it is, your smaller vegetable place, is because you can usually ask the people in the store, they know where stuff comes from. I buy this from Mickey, who's up in Prince George, and he's got a farm, and this is where the beef is from. Like, they can do that. And I think once you start asking those things, first off, you'll probably appreciate it better. Because to be honest with you, a lot of the stuff like that, whether it's vegetables or meats, tastes better. I know people think it's bullshit. It's not bullshit. They taste better, which means you don't typically have to use 50 times the amount and add a whole bunch of shit to it to make it taste. But so you don't save money by buying crappy. You actually spend more.
Well, it's interesting with that, like this grass-fed beef that we got, or just in general, like it's sort of a little bit of an aha moment to me. I've known about nutrient-dense food and all of that, but I'm sort of researching more about grass-fed beef or grass-fed ruminants in general because of the stomach, the multiple stomachs.
Right.
And as example of a cow, so the cow eats the grass, and it's not just one, it's a multitude of different products. So getting all of that. So they're taking the nutrients out of all of those mixed, products in the field, and then they're eating it up. They're shitting out what they don't need. The rest of it goes into the meat. So when you eat the meat, you're getting all those micronutrients.
Exactly.
So that's the nutrient-dense food part. So it's a great way to get nutrients if you're meat eater.
Better.
And the thing is, you don't need to have a whole lot to say. And also, if people know how to work with food a little bit better, that's the other thing. You can make it stretch. Like we bought an example. We bought a local organic turkey. Well, it wasn't local anyway. A turkey was out for Thanksgiving, and it was expensive, but it lasted like a week. And then I cooked it down, got all this great gelatin that was used other things. So it was expensive to purchase it, but got a lot of mileage out of it.
And I tell you the truth, I think with most good things, that works, and that works across the board, whether it's an appliance, whether it's pretty much anything. You spend more up front. And I know it's difficult. I know we're going to difficult times. But it's not going to be any cheaper the way you think you're going to do it. To buy 10 bottles of shitty olive oil. That whether you don't even know if it's olive oil, you're better off to buy the nicer stuff. Enjoy it, just stretch it. You don't have to swim in it.
I think that's also, it's a whole other probably session we could talk about, but just sort of how people don't know how to do that anymore. And like how people, when I was going into high school, there was home ec. Actually, my older brother took it. He became a chef. That turned him on. There was a great home ec teacher, but you learn how to sew and cook and all these domestic things. Like
we sewed our aprons. Remember, we all did aprons.
So that, that is something that's missing, or how to, personal finance or any of that stuff. Like that's
just really, even old school writing a check. You know what they teach you now is how to use this. Like we need any more help with this stupid thing. All people are is two thumbs.
So there's a lot of that. And I guess that kind of a little bit sort of part of the values of Salt Spring Coffee is we believe in all that sort of old school values based caring about people, and purpose, all of those things, but it's not an easy road to hoe at all.
Listen, I remember when we listed you, we liked you for that, and we were local, like you guys were local, and it was hard at the beginning. It was really hard. It was hard to get consumers to pay those deltas. I had to discontinue a ton of shit coffee. I had to leave like a Folgers and an alternative, but we really tried, but we paid the price for it. Because we took a beating for the first little bit. We pissed off a lot of old school customers. But at the end of the day, it was the right thing, and you win in the long run anyway. So who cares? But
now you get McCafe that's selling organic, grocery. So there you go, right?
Hey. As long as it's true, it's better than it was.
Absolutely. That's the other side of it, but as long as
it's true.
Right. And you get more consumers doing that. So if you go down the supply chain and it truly is organic, and then the people are healthier, using less chemicals.
Light it up, baby.
Well, that is absolutely true. But more my point being is that, the landscape on the shelf is getting, so our impact is less. So, but anyway, that's, I don't need to tell you guys all those stories, but that's how
we'll save the world one coffee bag at a time.
I love it.
So anyway, here we are. And I guess, sort of the, our latest thing is really working with regenerative agriculture, and we've.
I love it. No, it's good, Mickey. It's good. You guys were always, there wasn't, at the beginning, there was a bunch of you guys that actually got it, and you all did sort of walk the walk and talk the talk, and you did it. And it's unfortunate there's not as many left. The guys that are left, you guys are still doing your shit, and it's good. I think And I think it will change. I think the younger generation is a lot different, thankfully, than what we were, and probably the one right behind us.
Yeah.
They are more concerned because they've been handed a 2-7 offsuit.
Yeah.
Tough hand to play. You can still play it, but it's a lot harder to play than pocket aces.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really hard to know where things are going to be going. I mean,
they'll go where we allow them to go, and they'll go. It's up to us to determine how things go and where they go. So we have to do our part.
Yeah.
That's it.
That thing, I just say I feel pretty fortunate to live where I live and
Me
do what I do, but it's I mean, even just BC in general is pretty good, and there's pretty good food supply. I met once again at this conference I was just at. There was some people I think around Lillooet, Lytton area. I mean, they're doing a really amazing regenerative agriculture with cattle, duck, chickens, sheep. They got, but you need a few hundred acres. You
need space to do that, though, right? But again, we have lots of room. It's a big province.
Yeah.
Lots
well, it's interesting on Salt Spring here, which does have a farming history. And, there's an organization now called the Farmland Trust, and it's only going a couple of years. And there's a conference coming up in a couple of weeks about food security on Salt Spring. And I see all of these fields here that they cut hay once a year and they just sit there. Maybe a few sheep roll around in there off season. But sort of what I want to help doing is bring up awareness about this rotational grazing.
Absolutely.
I don't own the land, but I got a lot of drive and know things. So part of the thing I want to do is try to get some of these young agrarians maybe with that, get that going, and then we can start generating some of these fields to get them green again.
That's awesome.
Once again, it's got nothing to do with coffee, but it has to do with helping, getting local food security going better and keeping things tighter. Because animals can do that, and
absolutely.
I mean, even people say, oh, they're grass fed. I mean, they're running around in this big field eating grass, but you can do it way better. So just take it a little bit tighter. So that's what I personally going to start helping more in this community, and then try to set some examples about how that can work.
That's cool. You're a good man, Mickey. You're a good man.
Love it. Yeah.
Love it.
That's awesome. Listen, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much.
We ate up an hour.
We are. We
it doesn't take long, right? Because it's like sitting in a coffee bar, right? We just like to talk, and it's interesting talk, right? And I think I hope people get something out of these.
Yeah.
We're out of time, but I think I would love if you came on for real a part 2, because I think the parts that I'd love to pick your brain around. You're in an industry that when you started, there was kind of like a lot of wide open space, particularly if you think of it in like good beans and kind of great tasting coffee, let alone the organic side and all of that other stuff. I feel like you've grown up in a segment now that is quite competitive and quite crowded. So I think I would love to literally sit down and have a coffee and talk about that, because I think that would be also quite interesting.
Next time we see him is probably CHFA. We just grab him.
Yeah. No, but I think if you've got more time, I'd love to maybe send you some open thoughts, and then if you've got time, I feel like a part 2 on this would be really cool. I think.
Yeah. Well, I do come over to Richmond, regularly.
He's in Mississauga though, buddy.
I'm in Toronto.
He's one of them.
I'm an Easterner.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have a virtual coffee then.
Yeah.
I'll have a coffee with you, Mickey.
Okay.
You too, and then I'll just.
He can have the virtual. We don't. Whatever.
Guys, let me in.
Mickey, if people want to get a hold of you or find you, the coffee, how do they do it?
Well, I mean, so you can get saltspringcoffee.com. It connects us to the website, and you can reach me there.
Yep.
Or Mickey at saltspringcoffee.com is my email.
Perfect.
So either one of those ways. I'm not directly connected through the website connection, but can find me there.
Perfect.
Mickey at saltspringcoffee.com would be the my email getting to me.
Cool.
Yeah.
You never know. Maybe you might be inspired after this.
Is Viren. So if you email Viren,
yeah.
I would just do that. If you got complaints, call Viren.
Yeah.
If you want to talk good things, call Mickey.
Yeah.
Don't be scared to abuse Viren. It's okay.
Yeah, no, it's all good. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
No,
I'd
I
love
appreciate you
have
coming on, man. I
another,
really do. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, you go enjoy the rest of your day. Phil, you hang on. Mickey, take care of yourself.
Yeah, the sun's coming out. I'm
I
gonna
know
go
it
out.
looks nice out here,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah.
Take
All
it.
right. Thank you.
All right.
buddy.
Take care. Bye, Mickey. That was interesting.
Yeah, I would love to have the other conversation too. We can be a YouTuber because it's interesting. Like it's just, yeah, I mean, it's a tough industry. I mean, I kind of had a feeling it was going to go where it went because he is very much that guy. Like he actually lives and breathes it and he believes it and he's good at what he does. And it's important to talk about. I think it's, I think we should be talking more about it in general.
Yeah.
Even listeners, if you have guests, like he was talking about the younger agrarians or things like that, like Phil and I know we need to talk more about this stuff. So if we can help, we'd love to.
Yeah, we'd love it. Okay. We got to run.
Buddy boy. Got to go. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.